and welcome to another episode of Sharing Sauce with Sham. Today we have the lovely Tasha Booth. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yay! So we have Miss Tasha Booth here with us, and she's going to be sharing with us her entrepreneur journey. We're going to go all the way back, you guys, from where she was at before she even thought about becoming an entrepreneur to how we ended up with the offers and everything that she has today to offer to you guys. So, welcome, Tasha.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. So can you let's start and go all the way back. So who was Tasha before we start seeing you online? And what were you doing?
So let's see. So my degree is actually in musical theater. And I did that professionally for about 12 years, all around the country, internationally. Had a great time. But one of the things that I realized pretty early on was that I really like nice things.
Mm.
And even when you get to Broadway, the pay is not great. You're doing it because you love it. And while I loved it, I also just wanted to create a life that allowed me to travel and that allowed me to do some of the other things that I also enjoyed doing. So I kind of shifted gears, started working in health and wellness, was the health and wellness coordinator for 2 YMCAs. And that was what I was doing right before I started into the world of virtual support at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So quite interesting background there, but like many of us who are in this space, you were serving others before you got into this space where you were again serving others.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you transitioned from being that health coordinator into, I'm not sure, did you start out as a virtual assistant or
I
how did
did,
you?
yeah. So I actually used to have a hobby blog called The Frugal Fit Girl, and it was all about frugal, healthy living because I used to majorly be into couponing and was really, really good at it. And I basically, the whole premise of the blog was to show people that healthy couponing was possible and living on a budget and eating healthy and still being healthy was really possible. So that kind of got me into a lot of Facebook groups with other bloggers. And I started seeing people asking for VAs. And I kid you not, at the beginning, I didn't even know what VA stood for. I was like, what are people asking for? Veterans
Right.
Affairs, what is happening, right? And then once I did my research and realized a VA meant virtual assistant, I also realized that they were asking for people that could support them in the skill sets that I was cultivating as a blogger, right? Because they were their bloggers. So they needed help with their blog support, their email list, things that I was learning along the way. And I'm definitely a jump in and let's do it person. So I was like, I know how to do that. Why don't I make some extra money? And try to pay off my credit card debt, my student loan debt, and everything. And that's kind of where it started with me, just evenings and weekends while I was still in my full-time job,
Okay.
offering a few people, the opportunity to work with me as a VA.
Okay, that's awesome. And what year were we in when we got started in this again? Did I miss
Yeah.
that?
So it was super late 2016. I count 2017 as my first year in business, and 2018 was my first full-time year in business.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So you've been at this for quite some time here.
I
So you've
know.
seen
It's
quite a bit
been,
of
I
transition,
know
right?
it's so crazy that I'm now the grandma of this VA online space, and I've been in for 6-7 years at this point. But yeah, I have seen a lot change in terms of it, and my business has of course changed a lot in those 6 or 7 years as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's dive into that a little
Yeah.
bit. So how have you changed from starting out as blog support, so to speak,
Hmm.
into what we have here today? You're a launch manager as well as an agency trainer. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I think quickly and early on, so when I first started as a VA, I was offering everything under the sun. And then early on, I realized that if I wanted to make this sustainable and wanted to make something that I actually wanted to do for a long time, I had to figure out what I actually enjoyed doing because I was doing a lot of things that I didn't enjoy. I was making phone calls for people and all that stuff, right? So then I narrowed it down to tech support and the world of tech and also the world of launches. I was really fortunate to get on some larger teams for launches pretty early on as their tech virtual support professional and that sort of thing. And so I started seeing the inside of larger launches and what those could look like and what they could be. and just fell in love with it. I think that there's really two schools of people, either people that love launches or they hate launches. And I just loved seeing everything work together and seeing like all the pieces come together. It makes sense for my brain and it doesn't overwhelm me. Whereas for some people, like the fast pace of launches overwhelms them. It was just like exciting to me. So that's when I started to kind of start thinking about going all in when it came to launches, especially as a tech VA. And then I decided, I think this was this was in 2018. I decided also to shift my business from a solopreneurship to an agency model. So at first, my agency was offering both ongoing VA and online business management support, as well as launch support. And then in 2020, we kind of had a come to Jesus moment, my leadership team and I, and we said, what are the things that we like really actually enjoy doing? And every single one of us were like launches, who are the clients that we most enjoy working with? Those that we're doing launches for. So we kind of jumped and took a leap of faith in terms of slowly getting rid of our VA, ongoing VA retainer clients and ongoing OBM retainer clients and saying, we're just going to do launch support in a number of different ways for clients. And that was kind of how the evolution of kind of where people see the Launch Guild now in terms of, mostly doing full service launch support and launch related activities for our clients. That was kind of how it started.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like you really evolved and during those, the times where you were pivoting, like
Mm-hmm.
how was that for you being an entrepreneur? Was that really scary for you? Because I know there's somebody watching who's probably looking to pivot but who's afraid. What would you tell them?
Yeah. You know, I think with me being a really high quick start, like I get afraid of things, but at the same time, like I get over the fear really quickly as well.
Okay.
So I think that yes, there was a fear of, well, what if we never get a lunch client again? And like we've just released all of our VA clients, and what if we never have a lunch client again? But at the same time, like I felt that intuition and that gut feeling of like, this is the right move.
Yeah.
So we went all in. And the other reality of it is I had somebody, she was talking about pricing mainly, but like this resonated with me just when it came to services in general. She was like, you know what? Like people think that people are like looking at their website like every single day and being like, what price are they now? Like, and the reality is nobody's seeing it every single day except for nobody's
Right.
thinking about it that much. So if you like raise your price and then you try it for 6 months and you're not getting the pipeline that you want, or you don't get the clients that you want, you can always change it. And that's kind of how I went in with like launch support too. Like if we want to go back to ongoing VA support, we can do that in the future if we wanted to, but so far we haven't wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. And that makes so much sense, right? Like we're always kind of afraid of that unknown, but like if we
Mhm.
don't take a chance, how will we ever know like if it's going to
Yeah,
work out for us or not? And like you said, we often think like people really care about what we really have going on in our business, and they don't. They
they
really
don't. They don't care.
until we want to trigger us for something, they really don't care. They're not checking for us every day. So I love
Yep.
that you told them that because that is so true. But I want to unpack a little bit more about how you went from being a solopreneur
Mhm.
into owning an agency because that's a big
Yeah.
jump. Like, what got you to that point?
Yeah, I think I really missed. So the thing that was hardest for me to kind of navigate once I started working from home and working on my own was I missed people. I really love working around people. I missed that like, going to the coffee machine and talking to your coworker kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I wanted to kind of like replicate that in a way. And I missed the collaboration. And I'm really a person who enjoys staying in my lane and enjoys like staying with the thing that I am an expert in and letting other people being experts in their thing.
Yeah.
So it really just made sense for all of those reasons, especially as we got more into launches, which are, have more moving parts, are more complicated in terms of you need people that are experts in Facebook ads and design and social media and everything. So it made sense for me. And it made sense for how I enjoy working. It was definitely difficult in the beginning because leadership is a learned skill, and hiring and working with people and having hard conversations, all of those things are building blocks to having an agency. And not all of them are fun building blocks all the time. But I think I keep learning, every single day, even now with a team of 20 plus people on it. I keep learning every single day about how to improve as a leader, how to improve as a CEO, and how to make our company stronger.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. And so when you are getting started as this agency owner, um, let me see if I want to say this the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what were some of the struggles that, even though you really wanted to get into the space of, having that co-working and that
Mm-hmm.
camaraderie with having co-workers, that what were some things that you were kind of afraid of with that pivot, of having yourself to worry about versus having a team now to kind of worry about in your business?
Yeah. So I think early on, it was exactly what you just said, like having other people to worry about, and not just like worrying about them, but are they going to show up in the same way that I show up for our clients? I think in the beginning, I kind of hired like any warm body that was like near me, basically, and I quickly realized like there is an art to hiring, and finding the right people isn't just about finding somebody that has the hard skills, isn't just about finding that person, but also having a person that has the soft skills, that is a culture fit for the type of culture that you're creating in your company. Those
Mhm.
are just as equally, I would say, as important as them being able to work in Canva or, work in Facebook Messenger or any of those things. So taking my time, really slowing down in the hiring process and being more intentional about it was really helpful in terms of it. And then as my agency has progressed, we still have contractors, but we also have full and part-time employees at this point now too. And so
Yeah.
that was another big step in terms of, that's when I felt like, number one, I have a real big girl business, and then number two, like people were really depending on me, because especially those that were going full time with me, like this is where their 100% of their income was coming from at this point.
Yeah.
So that kind of felt like I felt a big weight and responsibility in that. I also know
Mhm.
that that was the pivoting point that was so pivotal in what my agency is today and the success that we have today, because having people who are like, my contractors are very, very dedicated. And so I don't want
Mhm.
it to sound like they're not, but there
Right.
is just a difference with having full-time employees who, I can tell them what time to come in and what time to leave, and that sort of thing. And
Mhm.
I can Slack message them and know that like they're there, kind of waiting for the Slack message,
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's a difference. And there's, like I said, there's been bumps along the road, but it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds really awesome because I know
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people out here who want to, expand into the agency. And I have a small agency myself. I don't have any full-time or part-time employees, just all subcontractors.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's definitely like you said, it gives you that camaraderie, like when you want somebody to talk to, even though they're not here when I say for them to be here because
Right.
it's not that type of situation. But we get on calls and we get to connect and
Mm-hmm.
all those good things. And also, it takes a lot off my plate so I can actually get to focus on the business.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so yeah, so very key and essential. Um, but while you're building, okay, so you're
Mm-hmm.
pivoting all over the place here. Um, did you have a mentor during these processes, these changes, or?
Yeah, I've had some kind of a coach or been in somebody's coaching program since month 3 of my business.
Okay.
So basically straight out the gate. And I see it as kind of the cheat code, like the easy way through the forest, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Because I don't like taking the long route. Like if I don't have to, I'm gonna take the easy way. And the reality is, like, I think that is a big key to my success in terms of just having people in my corner who have already been there, done that. Why do I need to reinvent the wheel if the wheel is already invented? I may tweak the wheel and make it a better wheel, or make that wheel work best for how I work, but
Mhm.
there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. So yeah, I've always had some kind of coach, some kind of mentor. Now I have a mastermind group that I'm a part of, and it's been absolutely amazing because it fuels it. It like we talk about business stuff, but we also talk a lot about like life stuff. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what I'm learning as I get to become a more seasoned business owner is that there is often a time when we try to separate who we are as people from who we are as business owners. And that is when we burn out, right? Because
Yes.
that it doesn't work. Like we have to bring our fallible humanity into the picture, because life happens. And so having those people around me is really amazing too.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. Um, so if somebody's watching right now, right, and they are thinking about going from solopreneur to an agency owner, what
Mhm.
would you tell them were some key steps for them to get going in that process?
Yeah, so I think it's about figuring out what your core service offerings are first and being excellent at that. Every once in a while, I get somebody who wants to join my program for agency owners, Agency Thrive Mind, and they're like, "Well, I'm a brand new business owner, but I want to start off as an agency." And I'm like, "Absolutely not! Like, you have to learn to walk before you can learn, or you have to learn to crawl before you can learn to walk, before you can learn to run, right?" And
Mhm.
so, really, you want to take the time to get to know who is your ideal client, what are your ideal offers, what do you want to be known as an expert in. And then once you're about 70 to 80% capacity, that's when you start thinking about, okay, how do I want to grow an agency? Do I want to do another thing, in terms of a scalable offer? Because agency ownership isn't the only way to earn more money in your business. There are other opportunities and avenues to do that. Agency ownership is one way. And so I don't think that everybody should become an agency owner. I think that
Mhm.
it takes a certain type of person. It takes somebody who enjoys working with people, who isn't going to be shattered when something doesn't go the way they thought it would the first time. So, you hire somebody and that person isn't as amazing as you thought they were, right? Or something, or a client is upset with it because a team member made a mistake. Like those things are going to happen. And so resiliency is a big part of being an agency owner. So I think taking the time in the front end and then knowing who you are and if agency ownership makes the most sense for you, and then slowly building your team. I always advocate for hiring an ops assistant first. And the
Mhm.
reason is because lots of times we come into agency ownership because we're already overwhelmed, because we already have a pipeline of people that are, a wait list kind of thing, or we're close to that. And
Mhm.
so if we have that operations assistant, they can start creating those processes that are going to be needed as you bring on team members, as you build your business, while you're still serving and supporting clients, and as you're hiring your new team members as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that. Definitely. I'm glad you pointed out like you don't want to just start out and go right into owning the agency because, like you said, like how do you don't even know your ideal client, you don't know what
Right.
services you want to offer. And I just think that's essential because there's so many people on the internet telling us otherwise, right? You can just
Yeah.
hop out here and start in any aspect of any of these online service providing services, but you can't because there's like a career path here, so to speak,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
most of them start with VA, and then
Yeah,
you work your
exactly.
way up as you become specialized.
And
So,
I definitely think that if you are about excellence, which most agency owners that I've seen that are super successful are built on a model of excellence, right? They've modeled excellence in their solopreneurship, and then they model excellence in their agency. And so it's okay to take time. Like I think we also on these internet streets, we get taught that everything should go from 0 to 60. Like you should be making $100,000 in 5 days,
right.
And then we're like, why am I burned out? Why isn't this working? Because you have no foundation. So let's take the time to get the foundation right. And then you can build a mansion on a strong foundation. But if you try to build a mansion on a rinky dink foundation, it's not going to work.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to talk a little bit about your launch specialist,
Mm-hmm.
your launch specialist, also launch management specialist. Do you guys focus strictly on like service based businesses, or do you do product based businesses as well, or yeah, or should people keep those separate? If you're going to be a specialist in one, do
Yeah.
that.
So it's interesting. When we started the Legendary Launch Manager certification, 3 years ago, I think at this point, we had the most experience. And when I say we, I mean the team, my team and I who developed the certification, we had the most experience in digital product launches. So that's group course, any kind of digital, like tangible products, so like PDF downloads, those sorts of things, program launches, all of those kinds of launches. And we worked primarily with online coaches and course creators. And so we teach and we taught from the beginning, and we still teach from that lens. But what's been interesting to see is that so many people who've gone through our certification have tweaked how we teach and have tweaked the tools that we've given them and the strategies that we've given them for things like book launches, product launches, events. And so I think there's an opportunity for that. We haven't done that many product launches. We've done a couple of hybrid product launches in terms of like there is a membership that I'm thinking of where there was a product that people would get, like a physical product that people would get monthly, in addition to having, a community and everything online. But we haven't done that many product launches. I don't think that they need to stay separate, but I think that people need to understand that there is a separate skill set in some sense. There's an additional skill set in some sense when it comes to product launches, understanding inventory management and shipping and sales taxes and all those things as well.
Got you. And so since you guys, you're more of a service based, I'm going to ask you, what are some of the key factors if somebody's out there doing a service based launch right now or trying to figure out those things? What are some key factors that will determine if they're going to have a successful launch or not?
Oh, I love this question so much. I think the biggest thing is the launch runway. And what I mean by launch runway is the 8 to 12 to 16 weeks of what you're doing before your launch, your open cart, as we call it, actually starts. So before you're introducing people into the program and people are able to buy into whatever you're selling, those 8 to 12 to 16 weeks are absolutely key. And what people aren't or are doing in those weeks as they become clients of ours, I can 99.9% of the time tell you how successful revenue-wise their launch is going to be. Now, I believe that there are other metrics, especially for newer launchers, those who have launched only the first, second, or third time. I believe there are other measures of success when it comes to those launches. A lot of times we're trying to build an audience. We're trying to really hone in on their brand message, right? On what works and doesn't work in terms of getting their community to take action. So we look at those metrics as well. But when you're thinking about revenue, the big thing is, have you prepped your audience? Have you kind of, created those little Hansel and Gretel like breadcrumb trails for them in the beginning so that they're not like caught off guard kind of out of the blue when you start talking about your launch. So many people don't have an email list and don't have a community. And then I get on the discovery call with them. I was like, who are you going to sell to? Your mom? Like your mom's the only one on the email list, So we have to start, once again, I think it's about building blocks. It's kind of the same thing about foundations. And when it comes to launches, your community is your foundation. It doesn't have to be super fancy. You don't have to use the coolest tech. You don't have to have 87 bonuses, but you do have to have a community of people that you have prepped to buy your thing already. So that's the biggest thing. And also understanding that like launches are cumulative. So when somebody comes to me, and this happens way too often, they fill out a discovery call form and they're like, this is my first launch and I want to make $1 million. Like, is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. Right. So we have to know that like, if you are a person that's like, well, if this isn't revenue, successful the first time out, I'm going to bounce. I'm not doing this again. You probably should find something else to do, right? Because you're probably not going to make the revenue success that you want first time out the gate. But if you look at the data, if you figure out what worked and what didn't work, and then you rinse and repeat and tweak and make better, that second launch will be more successful. And then that third launch and fourth launch and fifth launch. But people don't want to hear that a lot of times. They're just like, but my friend Susie down the road said, and I'm like, Susie is an anomaly,
Right.
And unfortunately we see those in the online space. One person had success in this one way, one time, And now they're teaching like, this is the way to do it. And because I did it this way, you can too. When there's so many other factors that we have to factor in to make a launch successful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And talking about, since we all want to make that $1 million in 5 minutes, as soon as we say we're launched, $1 million, right? But what are some of the other components that you said are just as important? So, like, if I'm a new business owner, I've never launched before, what would you say, like, I should focus on more than the revenue at that point?
Yeah, I think definitely audience growth. So that's the biggest one. And once you've grown that audience, once you've taken that time to grow your audience, don't abandon them after your launch. So often we're just like, okay, well, the launch is, the card is closed, and then they don't hear again from you until 6 months later when you're launching again. So really cultivating and nurturing that community, because maybe they weren't ready to buy from you that first time, but maybe seeing you be consistent over the next 6 or 12 months, they'll be ready to buy from you that next time. I also think it's really important to remind, especially newer launchers, that I fully believe in feel good launches. I fully believe in stress-free launches. And what creates feel good, stress-free launches is working on a timeline that is reasonable for you. And only you know what that timeline is. So some of our clients we work with for 8 weeks, right? But they're full-time in their business. They have a full team and they're able to really focus on the parts of the launch that only they can show up for, doing things like Facebook Lives and Instagram stories and writing copy and creating content and everything. But we also have clients that we work with 12 or 16 weeks who are just like, you know what, I need more spaciousness in my launch. I have other things going on in my life and my business. And honoring that and stepping into that is what is going to make you not hate launches in the long run. Because even when you have an amazing team like ours, you can't just like, hire us and then go to Tahiti for the entire 12 weeks leading up to your launch. There are things that you're going to need to do.
Right. That would be really nice.
I know, right? I would love that too. Like, how do we make that work?
Right. Let's call Tasha and her people, and we're on
I know.
vacation. So, for anyone watching right now who's looking to get into the online service provider space, like, what kind of advice would you give them on getting into this space?
Yeah, I would say, I think that there are a lot of skill sets that you probably already have that you think aren't skill sets that you can utilize because they come easy to you. I had this client once and she is a rock star at like calendar management. Like she can color code a calendar and like make it make sense like nobody I've ever seen. And she was charging like $100 for that, like $100 to put together somebody's complex calendar, like CEO level calendars, right? And I was like, why? And she goes, well, it's easy to me. And I said, yes, but like it's easy to you. The people
Right.
that want to hire you, it's not easy to them. And they're willing to pay for the ease of not having to do the thing, right? So think about those skill sets that like, think about the things that even if you've never been an entrepreneur before, think about when when your family's about to do their family reunion or something, like what is the thing that they're always like, oh, we're going to put Tasha in charge of this because she's so great at that. That is a skill set that probably is easy to you, that is probably sellable because it's not easy to somebody else. So thinking outside the box, thinking of the other skill sets that you've had in other businesses or in other companies that you've worked for or in other pursuits that you've had in the past, and then taking your time. I know I've talked about like showing up in excellence before, but I think that we believe so much that like I was saying, we should go to 0 to 60 like 3 days, but we wouldn't expect that of a bakery, right? Like of any brick and mortar business. We think, oh, they have to get like permits and then they have to come up with their recipes and then they have to like build out the inside of the structure. There's all of these steps. And we just think that because it's online, for some reason we have to bypass all those steps. And we don't. Like you can take your time.
Yeah. And I think that's so key because like even coming from corporate, right? Like just you're climbing the corporate ladder and there's like you expect, like even just say you're an attorney and you're associate, you expect it to take you 3 to 5 years before you even get considered to be a lateral attorney or a partner or something like that. So why would we hop into online and go from a support staff to a freaking CEO of an agency in 10 days and think we know everything? right?
Exactly. Somebody in my Facebook group the other day, she was like, is it really possible for like, virtual assistants to make $50,000 a year? She said, I just started 2 weeks ago and I only have 2 clients and I'm making $1,000 a month. And I'm like, you're at 25% of your goal after 2 weeks. Like,
Right.
that's pretty amazing. Like, you want to make $4,000 a month and you're already almost, you're 25% there. So give yourself maybe, I don't know, 6 more weeks and you'll be there. So yeah, just, it's okay to slow down.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Um, so if people are looking to work with you, Tasha, like let's talk about what you have coming up, like everything from
Yeah.
the agency to the launches.
Yeah. So if people are interested in working with me on the agency side, anything launch related, our website is thelaunchguild.com. We do full service launch support. We also have VIP days for design and tech integration in terms of launches. And then on what I call the Tasha Booth side, which is my personal brand side, we have 2 certification programs now. So one is the launch manager certification. We also actually just recently launched a launch tech specialist certification. So there's 2 ways to kind of become a specialist in the world of launches and get certified in that. And then second to last is I have the Agency Thrive Mind, which is my program, my one-on-one and group coaching program for agency owners. It's a 6-month program. And then this year, I actually just started hosting retreats. So I
Oh, wow.
just got back Monday, 2 days ago from my first Call to Clarity retreat. It's an in-person retreat. We're doing 2 of those a year. And then we're also hosting a conference in October in Albuquerque for agency owners. I know. I was just like, let me just do 3 live events in one year. I've never done one before. Let's try it. All right.
So you are true to your word. You just jump right out
I
there. I
jump
love
right in.
it.
We're
I
like,
love it.
one's not enough. We need 3.
That is awesome. So you guys heard it. Like there's so many ways to work with Miss Tasha here. She is out here killing it. What are they? They say the make more offers challenge. You definitely have the offers out here on the table. Okay. So there's
Yeah.
no excuse why you shouldn't be working with her. So every time we wrap up, I always like to ask if there's any last words you want to leave with the people, any words of encouragement, anything like that before we sign out.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when people ask, like, what is the key to me having a 7-figure business? It's that I was consistent. I showed up and kept going when other people turned around and quit. And so be consistent, and consistent can mean different things on different days. Your 100% is not always 100% every single day, but do something every day, not just in your business, not just for your clients, but for your business, right? Do it for you and for your future success and the future success of your company.
Yes, you guys heard Tasha now. Stay consistent and you got to do it for yourself because, above all else, if you try to do it for somebody else, it just won't work because
It won't work.
entrepreneurship is not for the weak.
Nope, it is not.
So, yes. So, thank you so much, Tasha, for joining us today. This was a great conversation. I know that people are going to get so many gems because you dropped so many gems in here. All they have to do is tune in and listen, and really they can discover, where they want to go next in their
Yeah.
career as an online service provider. So, until next time, you guys.